Tickled is a documentary about this sport called competitive endurance tickling. So back in New Zealand, I'm a light entertainment journalist and I was looking for a new story. And I found this company and they were running monthly competitive endurance tickling shoots in LA. So once a month, they fly up to 20 young people into LA. They give them $2,000 cash. They give them a hotel, they give them per diems, and all they need to do is tickle each other. So that's where this documentary started.
So what are the rules for competitive tickling? Like what's off limits, what's on limits? Like...
Yeah, well that's the thing, because I was looking at these videos and they're all on the internet, and there didn't really seem to be any rules. They were just a whole lot of like quite young, fit, buff guys tickling each other in Adidas gear. And it was pretty weird, so I went to their Facebook page and I just made a post saying, I'm a journalist in New Zealand, I'd love to do a story. And I got back this response that just said, we don't want to deal with a homosexual journalist. And I was like, okay, this is a sport it looks pretty gay. And the company behind it seems to be a little bit homophobic. And so we kept emailing back and forth and it got more and more insulting. And so this documentary is kind of my journey and my co-director's journey, Dylan, to find out who's behind it and what they actually want.
You went in, you wanted to do it, but then you met that hostility and then you're like, this isn't the story I wanted to tell, but now I'm going to tell this story. Yeah,
originally it was just going to be a 2-minute news story about this crazy sport. So once I got that response, I sort of thought, okay, there's got to be more to this. So we did a Kickstarter and we raised some money to sort of go on an initial trip to the United States to kind of see, is this definitely a real thing? Is this definitely a sport that people are taking part in? Because I'd watched the videos online, but it was still sort of too hard to believe almost.
Yeah.
So we got there, we did some filming, we were sort of met with more animosity in America, and then we thought, let's just make this production kind of even bigger. And we traveled across the US, we got some more funding, and now we're here at Sundance, which it's pretty wild.
Yeah, the whole concept is absolutely bizarre, but what would you say is the most bizarre thing that you encountered?
Probably, there's so many. I met a man in Florida who is a tickling fetishist. And so for a job, his whole job is tickling people. And it pays the bills, he's got a really nice house. That's all he needs to do in life is tickle people. And so I went to Florida and he's got a chair that he straps people into and tickles them. And so I was strapped in for 10 minutes and he's got a whole box of tickling instruments like feathers, hairbrushes, all sorts of things. And he tickled me non-stop for 10 minutes and it's one of the most horrible experiences of my entire life.
Right, well, they call it, so it was a tickle torture.
It was tickle torture essentially, and this guy's great. Like he does this in the open. He's whereas the tickling sort of scene I'm investigating is sort of all mysterious. He's out and proud, and he kind of introduces me to this whole scene. So the scene with me getting tickled didn't make it into the film because it's just too awful. Like no one needs to see me being tickled for 10 minutes.
Or you didn't want to see me getting tickled
no, exactly.
for 10 minutes.
But that was probably the most bizarre experience of the whole shoot for me.
Wow. What was the tangent? But what was the weirdest thing he tickled you with?
Probably an electric toothbrush.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
weird.
one of those vibrating toothbrushes, he did that, sort of across my chest, and then the worst thing he did is he took off my shoes and my socks and he lubed up my feet with Vaseline.
Vaseline?
Oh. This is the perfect...
Does this bring back memories?
This brings back terrible memories. I see I'm surrounded by Vaseline placement. So he lubed up the bottom of my foot with Vaseline and he got one of those really hard bristled hairbrushes and he just scraped that up and down my foot slowly, and it was the worst. It was the worst thing. It's horrible.
Yeah.
And you can't get away because you're trapped.
No. Does the guy not have a soul, or did you
but
beg him to stop?
People like watching this, people want to watch it.
When was the point where you said, "Okay, please stop," and he actually listened? Because
I couldn't. Part of the deal with going into this was that I couldn't get out, so there was no escape.
You didn't try to renegotiate that deal after 5 minutes?
I was screaming at him. I was telling him. I was swearing at him. I was saying, "Stop this! This is awful." But the deal was, he was kind enough to open his door and let us shoot, and so that was the deal, 10 minutes, and it was horrible.
What is the takeaway that you hope audiences can get from this? I know that you...
I mean, I think what I want audiences to take away is that probably truth is stranger than fiction, and I know that's said a lot, but with this story, it almost feels like that times 10. because you'll encounter one thing, and the way that I put the documentary together is that I want people to go on the journey with me, and so as I was there discovering these crazy things, and I think I found one crazy thing, and then there's another thing and another thing, I also sort of want to bring the audience along with us, and I think that's what I've achieved.
It's like if you smell something suspicious, just keep going. And
completely. And Dylan, who co-directed this documentary, we come from very similar backgrounds. So he's very IT centric, and I'm sort of more interested in meeting people. And so together, he was sort of tracing this story on the internet, and then I was there sort of interviewing people and meeting people in real life. So it was a really great complementary thing. And I think without him, he's back in New Zealand now because he's got kids he's got to go back to. But without him, it wouldn't have existed. So I felt pretty lucky to have him along on the ride.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on getting your film all the way here.
Thank you so much.
Really amazing, and yeah, thanks for talking to me too.
No, pleasure.
And get some Vaseline on your way out.
Yeah, I will. And just competitive endurance tickling, watch out. It's not what it's made out to be.
I will not be partaking in any competitive tickling. And if anybody comes next to me with a comb, I'm going to hide the Vaseline.
No, don't.